Hi, welcome back to Called to the Home. Today we're continuing our series on De-stressing mealtime. This is part 2 in the series, so if you haven't started from the beginning, I do encourage you to go back and watch the first episode where we talked about big picture meal planning. But today we're going to be talking about meal preparation. Assuming you have already done your planning, it is now time to actually look at your weekly meal plan and to begin to prepare for the next meal. Step number 1. There are 4 times during your preparations that you need to look at your meal plan, and this needs to begin the day before the dinner. So, this is something that you might need to adapt to fit your schedule, but what has worked for me, if you haven't tried anything before, start with that until you know what works better for you, is to start by looking at my next day's dinner the night before. So I've gotten the children to bed, I'm tidying up, making sure the kitchen is spotless so that when I get up in the morning, there isn't anything I need to do. I look at the meal plan and I'm looking for the primary reason of knowing if I need to thaw anything out. So if there's something that needs to be brought out of the freezer and put into the refrigerator tonight, then that's what I'm going to do when I look at the meal plan. The other thing, however, I need to do is to kind of think about what my next day's schedule is. So some meals have a little bit more preparation involved than others, especially if you are someone who cooks and bakes completely from scratch. You do not buy anything pre-made at all. And so at this point, the only thing that I sometimes buy pre-made is dried pasta, which I do actually make from scratch myself as well, but not every day. That's a little bit involved. And so some days I need a quick dinner and that dried pasta might help me be that meal. And so when I look at that, I need to kind of situate myself to see what is coming the next day. Is there something that has a 3 or 4 hour baking process involved? I need to, make sure that my next day's schedule is going to suit that. The second time I'm going to look at my meal plan is in the morning when I get up. So it's D-Day. Today we're cooking this dinner as I'm looking at it in case I have forgotten what I've seen the night before because yes, this happens. 5 children, sleep deprivation, ones that still don't sleep through the night, that definitely occurs. And so that morning I look at that list again so that I remind myself, oh, did I need to bake any sort of bread today? That's happening first thing in the morning, even before breakfast, so that that can get into the mixer machine, it can go into the bread machine, it can start rising on the counter, whatever it is that needs to occur then. The third time I'm looking at this again is after lunch. So as I'm clearing away the table and getting the kitchen put back in order after lunch, I'm looking at that list again so that I can again structure my afternoon and make sure that I don't accidentally allow an activity to run a little too late. My children told me there's a story I have to share about this where I recently did not do a good job of that. I broke my own rule and did not look at the meal plan again after lunch. And what had happened is that my husband commented, "Weren't you going to make this for dinner today?" And okay, we're 30 minutes out from dinner at this point. And I go, yes, I was. What time is it? Oh, that's not happening anymore. I don't have time to do it. It was one of those things where it had to have an hour to sit and rise, and then you cook it. Had I been planning properly, known that I had that coming, I would have set myself an alarm. I would have structured my afternoon so that I did that, but I didn't. I skipped a step and I missed it, so we made something else instead. It happens, be flexible and give yourself a little bit of grace when that occurs. But let's try and plan a little better, and after lunch, double check that. Now for me, since I just brought it up there in that story, I'll mention as well, alarms are a lifesaver, especially when you have a lot of things that you're juggling all at once. And not just having alarms where then it when goes off, you don't know what it was for. It needs to have a name on it. Electronic devices are very helpful in this area. If you don't have electronic devices, you have multiple timers, you need to have sticky notes underneath them where you write on it what it is so that when it goes off, you know what that's for. So come up with a system that works for you. But I will definitely set myself alarms of, hey, 9 o'clock in the morning, I need to start baking bread. 12 o'clock in the afternoon, I need to make sure that this chicken is, soaking in its marinade. 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I need to make sure that the potatoes have been washed. So things that are time dependent and dinner will be delayed if they're not ready, I definitely set myself alarms for. So extra free tip in the middle there. So the fourth and final time you are checking your meal plan is going to be 1 hour before dinner. Again, assuming that your dinner takes that much or less time to prepare. If you're cooking something a little more involved in that, God bless you for having so much freedom in your schedule that you can do that, but make sure that you adjust accordingly. And so 1 hour before dinner, we're looking at that plan again, and we're now in cook dinner mode. Now, it may not need a whole hour to prepare that dinner. So it may just be a couple things I'm organizing and getting in order, and then, in 15 minutes, 30 minutes, I need to actually begin dedicated cooking. But those are the 4 times we're checking. All right, tip number 2. You need to make sure that your dishwasher is running while you are finishing eating lunch, or if you absolutely must get those lunch dishes in there, immediately when lunch has been cleaned. The dishwasher needs to be done. It needs to be open and air drying, or if you have a heat dry feature, it needs to be drying, and you need to have it put away at that 1 hour before dinner mark. It needs to be empty so that when dinner is done, everyone can bring all of their dirty dishes, put them right into the dishwasher, and you're good to go. Nothing more stressful than being a dishwashing household and having the dishwasher full of dishes that are still dirty and no room for the additional dishes that are now dirty from dinner. So you need to make sure that that happens. So daily routine, lunch, dishwasher runs. All right, item number 3. Make sure you do the majority of your meal prep during the least stressful hour of your day. This is a little bit contrary to the way that we think. So there are many items that go into dinner preparation that don't have to literally be done in the hour before dinner. If it is something that it is not going to affect the flavor, the texture, the taste to have been done earlier in the day, do it earlier in the day. For example, there is no difference between bread baked at 8 a.m. and bread baked 5 minutes before dinner. It is exactly the same bread. Now, bread baked yesterday, big difference. I'm not talking about that. But if it has been baked today, nobody cares if it was baked 3 hours ago or 5 minutes ago. So all of your baking should be done way before dinner. You are putting yourself at risk of having some issues if you wait and time it to where it's done right at that moment. Plus, you're probably competing for oven space. Things like that. Another example, chopping vegetables, fruits, dicing onions, mincing garlic. That does not need to be done that moment. Do all of the chopping, put it in containers earlier in the day, whenever your peaceful, calm hour is. You do not want to be doing things like chopping tomatoes and dicing up onions and picking leaves off of a cilantro herb when you've got toddlers screaming, everybody's kind of getting hungry, it's close to dinner time, and you're stressed, they're stressed, and everybody's unhappy. Don't do that. Do all of that earlier. Now, there are some things that, honest to goodness, they just aren't as good if they were cooked long ago. Oatmeal, for example. Leftover oatmeal is not as good as fresh oatmeal. So don't do that. Don't cook everything earlier in the day and then just give everybody leftovers for dinner. That's not good. But those little things that you can do to prepare for it, if that means you do like you see on the cooking channel shows, you pre-measure out your ingredients and you don't mix them together, you just keep them measured and laid out, do that. Obviously not for things that have to be kept cold in order to stay, safe so that there's not bacterial growth. So, don't do that with your milk and your eggs, but you can measure out the salt and the pepper and the spices and the flour and all of the seasonings. That can be pre-measured. So those sorts of things that you can do ahead of time, do that. All right. Item number 4, you need to keep your countertops and your table clean and clear. And I don't mean sanitized clean, although, yes, that's definitely a given. Sanitized clean is a priority. I mean empty. There should be no junk. It should not be the catch-all for all the stuff. There should not be dirty dishes all over it. Shouldn't be the kids' school books still all over it. As we near times to prepare food and times to eat food, those things need to be completely empty. That may mean that for this 1 hour period, all of the junk gets moved to the bedroom, gets moved to a closet, and then it comes back out. That's fine. But it is very stressful to try and cook in a space where there's stuff all over the countertop, so you're stuck with this little 8 by 10 inch square area where you can work and chop and move around. Get your countertops clean. If by chance you have allowed clutter to overtake your kitchen, to the point that you have a lot of things all over the counters, and it's not junk, it's supposed to be there, that's its place. You need to eliminate that. Your countertop should be mostly empty. Mostly empty. So you might want to rethink your design. You might do a little bit of decluttering in your kitchen to make that happen, especially the countertops between your stove and your sink and your refrigerator. Those have got to stay spotless. As again, you get close to dinner time, same goes with the table, so make sure that that's completely empty. It's very stressful to say, okay, we're ready, let's get dinner on the table, and come to find out this kid's got a Lego castle and that kid's got an art project with every single one of the special markers out, and this kid's been making paper mache creatures. And they're all over the table and all over the floor, and now you've got to clean and organize, and then dinner can on the table. Maybe it's just my house, but this happens. So we make sure that that's a rule. When mom starts cooking dinner, everybody else gets the table clean and clear. Now, if your children are very young, then that's on you to make sure before you start cooking dinners, give yourself that 15 minutes before the hour mark that you're cleaning off the table and getting it completely empty of anything that isn't needed for dinner. All right, rule number 5, clean as you go. You've probably heard this before, but as you are cooking, wash a pot. You use this, it's finished, rinse it off, get it in those stages. There's a lot of things that happen during cooking that between stirs, I can go rinse something. Between stirs, I can go wash something. Or I'm just waiting for the green beans to finish cooking. I want to make sure that the bacon and the seasonings all melds in there, and I just have 5 minutes left on the timer. So I'm just standing there in the kitchen. Clean everything. By the time the dinner gets to the table, every single pot, pan, and dish that is in the kitchen and has not got food sitting in it should be washed and sitting out to dry. So when you sit down, there should not be one single dish in that sink. Now, a hard and fast rule, no, of course, life happens, but that needs to be your pattern. And so that ensures that you don't have then a pile of dishes waiting for you. Now, you may have someone in your household that's happy to wash dishes for you and they volunteer for that job. That's great. That's fine. But most of us don't. So that is how you navigate it. And last, setting the table, number 6. You need to look at your situation and see what is available to you in terms of labor force. If your children are all 4 and under, probably not a super help to you in setting the table. So it's on you. But if you have children 5 and older, you shouldn't be setting the table. They should. They're old enough to do that. So kids that are in the home, 5 and up, definitely able to set the table completely on their own. Maybe get some guidance, right? You'll have to train them a little bit. This isn't something they're going to innately know how to do. But what I would suggest, if you've got, I'll call them older children, 5s and up, you should set everything in one spot. In our house, we call it the pass-through. There's an empty counter space, and I stack all of the items there for them, and they are then responsible to get it onto the table and arranged in the way that I've trained them to arrange it. So you lay out, here's the plates. You count, you stack them there. Here's the forks, here's the spoons. Now, if you have much older children, they can do that job for you as well. In my case, I kick them out the kitchen. So they're not allowed in the kitchen. All the stuff they need is on that counter. I have the entire kitchen space free so that when I turn around, there's not a little one underfoot. I don't have to worry about accidentally stepping on or knocking somebody over. In your case, that setup may be a little bit different. Now, if your kids are all under 5, it's still a good idea to train them in how to set the table, but they're not going to be a huge help to you in doing that. So, they might get silverware duty or napkin duty. They're laying these things out. In this case, I would recommend if, the table setting is on you, that you set the table before you start cooking dinner. I don't know, see, backwards. It's not the first thing we think of. Get everything that you need to the table. We're talking about salad dressings, ketchup, mustard, salt, pepper, everything. Have the table completely set and then go spend your hour, however long you need, to go cook your dinner. So those are my strategies for helping meal preparation not be a stressful time. Even I mess up some of those things sometimes, but every time I do and I start feeling stressed, I know exactly what step I missed and why it is being that way, which means it is completely in your control. And so most of the problems that happen around meal preparation and mealtime are things that you have the power to fix and change, and therefore you should. So therefore, As the scriptures tell us, if we know to do something good and we don't do it, that's sin. So you can't get frustrated with the kids. You can't get frustrated with, the dog if they're in your way when you're cooking and you're stressed, because it's probably not the only thing that caused the stress. You probably didn't do a lot of things along the way, and that's what led to it. So learn from it, move forward, and let's de-stress mealtime. Until next time.